Welcome to Community Crossfire, another point of view. I'm your host, Norman Oliver. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, I have an incredible show. Wow. I've had, most of the shows, we have the governor on, we have U.S. senators on, we have, politicians. Tonight, I'm a basketball guy. We have on the phone the great Earl Monroe. We have in the studio with me my mentors. Let me put it like that. The great Sonny Hill and the Honorable Theodore Blunt. And I'm going to tell you something about Ted Blunt before we get started. But first, before I go to my guest, I want to say I had an incredible time yesterday with my family. I have 4 brothers and 4 sisters. It's 9 of us. My mother died at a young age. All 9 of us, we went and took a portrait yesterday. And after the portrait, we went to Delaware Park and Keith Starkey fixed the meal. And it was just us 9. The whole day. We just spent the whole day together. And so then Keith Starkey came down and we went to the Monday Club and had some wine and just chilled. And it's so, I hear you talk about family all the time. And Earl, we're going to talk about the book and all that, but, before I even get into the book in basketball, when I get a chance to talk to you guys about life, and just how things have changed, like when I was in New York with you and Ted Blunt, Earl, and I heard you and Ernie and Ted just talk about the stories. That's what that meant so much to me. When I'm around Sonny Hill and he's talking about Norm, this is how you got to do things, and this is how you should do your basketball league. But make sure you watch out after these young folks. Let's just talk about that for a minute before we get into that. Is that okay, Sonny? How has things changed since just during your guys' time?
Well, I think Earl and Ted in particular would agree that the stair-step philosophy that we had in Philadelphia, now we have to make a division here. We're Philadelphians.
Mm-hmm.
You're from Delaware.
He's talking, I'm not talking. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
That's all right. And when we were growing up, we're all off the backs of those before us who opened it up and made us have the opportunities that we've had. Mm-hmm. And what we found is that those doors are not open anymore. And I think a lot of that is media, the way the media is today. I think a lot of that is because we've lost a lot of the family structure that we once had. Not only the immediate family, but we had extended family. So when you talk to Ted and you talk to Earl, who are 2 of my young guys, and from my point of view, we were raised by the extended family as well, people you met in the neighborhood, people that they met in the recreation centers or the playgrounds. So I think that's all a part of what goes on. Would you agree with that, Earl?
Yes, I certainly do. One of the things that, was, so important in growing up was the fact that we had other people around that we could allude to that understood that what we needed and kept us in a straight and narrow line. I think, it's interesting that we say this and we're talking about this right now because there was a lady by the name of Mabel Wilson who was on my block in Philadelphia, Alta Street. And she had been, someone who cared about the kids in the neighborhood for so many years. This is the 60-something anniversary of her starting what we call the Vacation Bible School there. And because, they have this celebration every year, and eventually her sons were able to get the land that was around there because, those old neighborhoods in South Philly, they're not the same as they used to be. There are a lot more lots there than they used to be. And they were able to secure, some of the land there, and they've made it somewhat of a landmark. And coming up on the 27th of July this month, there's going to be a fundraiser because they weren't able to secure all of the land. They had to pay the back taxes on it, so they need a little money to try and make sure that, they secure the rest of the land. But Mabel Wilson was a lady who really, put us in, gave us the idea of being good people. She nurtured us, and not just myself, but like I said, for so many years, generations of kids. And, you know, these are the people that really set us on our path to be whoever and whatever we got to be.
And you know what happened? You could tell those so many stories like that. Hey, Ted, let's jump into the book a little bit. Ted, I've read a little excerpts, and they talked a little bit about your basketball game and when you was at Winston-Salem and you guys. Tell me a little bit about the book and what we got going on with Earl, and let's have that little dialogue.
No, what I really liked about the book was Earl talking about his beginnings and growing up and the little things like taking the broom and riding it like it was a horse, you know, knowing all the people in the neighborhood. And in Earl's particular case, starting out in Philadelphia, there were a lot of guys that had real big reputations that used to pretty much talk down to Earl prior to his going to college. And what I liked most in the book was when he and Matt Jackson had the opportunity and Earl went out and there was a bet involved and Earl forgot all about the bet. He didn't even get the money, but he won the bet, and then, you know, he became who he is today. But it was more about just him growing up and the people that he met along the way. The mere fact that he and we knew each other in high school, but he was from South Philly and I was from North Philadelphia. And he went to Bartram High School, which was in West Philadelphia, which was crazy. But we had the opportunity to play against one another in high school. And then we had the opportunity my junior and senior year to play together at Winston-Salem. And by far, he was the best that I've ever seen.
Hey, Earl, tell me, what kind of impact did Big House Games have on you?
Well, I think, you know, not only myself, but all the people that he's touched. You know, he was an inspiration. He was a teacher. He made us understand that it was more to just basketball than just playing the game itself. He gave us life lessons and things of that nature. And things, you know, it's interesting because a lot of people, when they were in school, they will always talk, well, house is this and house is that. And these are the same guys, you know, after they get out of school and we go to homecoming, they're trailing behind him because they realize all the things that he was telling us was true. And now they were able to experience it, and they were better for it because they at least got a heads up on it early on, and they understood what it really meant for them. So he was not, you know, he was kind of a father figure. But, you know, aside from all that, you know, just a great man and one fantastic basketball coach.
Sonny, you have the book. You want to lift it up. And ladies and gentlemen, if you just tuned in, we have the great Sonny Hill on with the great Earl, the Pearl Monroe, and the greatest, our good friend, Theodore Blunt. And we're promoting the book, Earl the Pearl, My Story. Sonny, do you have any stories or anything that you could think of to tell us about Earl that we don't know? Or?
Well, I think the first thing is to tell you, and Ted has one of these too. I meant to tell Ted when we left the house to bring this book, but Earl signed this book to me. It says, to Sonny Hill, friendship is not for the present, it is for always. Thanks for being my friend. That tells you all you need to know about Earl and the way he interacts with his close-knit friends. Mm-hmm. The thing that I think of Earl mostly is the fact that he never got caught up in being all of the things that we think about from basketball. Because of my close relationship with him, he's like two people. On the basketball floor, he's this flamboyant, energetic, creative guy. Off of the floor, he's just the opposite. He's very quiet, but he's still creative. So the creativity is the same, but for people who wouldn't know him, they think about the guy that brought the playground game to the NBA and made them like that. And I'm gonna say that again because in this day and age, people don't know what I'm talking about. But when Earl came through, the playground game in the NBA and even in college was disliked and looked down on. Oh, they're playing playground. You can't bring that stuff to college. You can't bring that to the pros. But Earl was so good, as Ted Blunt just said, you got to think this man, when he was at Winston-Salem, you know, he averaged 42 points a game. He shot 65% from the field, and most people don't even know this. He had a long springer. Now, in Philadelphia language, that means he had a long jump shot.
Yeah, oh, you got to educate us, okay. That's all right. So, Ted, is there anything that comes to mind?
I just remembered when Earl first arrived on the campus at Winston-Salem, and he and Zaib, who was then Steve Smith, saw this big giant man coming to get them at the train station and taking them to campus. And Earl's freshman year, whenever we would get in trouble because Coach Gaines wouldn't start him, he'd pull Earl off of the bench. I mean, we would be down 16, 18 points. Earl would come in, score 16, 18 points, and then put him back down at the end of the bench again and wouldn't play him. And Earl sort of got upset the first year and contemplated on going home. And so he went and met with Coach Gaines, and Coach Gaines said, "Wait a minute, son, step outside." Coach Gaines called his mother, and he said, "Somebody wants to speak to you, Earl." She said, "Keep your butt in school, boy." And Earl could better tell that story than I can, but I pretty much know it. But for me, it was a pleasure playing with him. My senior year, the two of us playing together in the backcourt, and he was by far the best that really ever played in the CIAA and during that time in the country.
Hey, Earl, let me ask you a question. Just about recruitment, because I don't know how it was back then compared to now. Did you have many offers? How was it as far as blacks playing back then to now?
Well, coming out of high school, I didn't have a lot of offers. It seemed strange that the offers that I had were from somewhere in Montana and somewhere in western Michigan were the only letters that I actually got. And later on, years later, I found out that my high school coach didn't give me all the scholarship offers that I had. But, that being what it is, back in those days, especially for black colleges, the recruiters for those colleges were pretty much the guys who had played for the coach before. And when they went back to their respective cities, and if they saw, talent that they thought that the coach might be able to use, he would call the coach, and that's how, that's how a lot of us got, down to Winston-Salem. I hadn't seen talked to Coach Gaines prior to going down there, but great friend and the recruiter was a guy named Leon Whitby, who had played for Coach Gaines, and he was, not only a good guy, but he was a great friend as well. And that's how a lot of us got down to those black schools. There was no, recruiting budget per se. And what's interesting is that there's another great coach by the name of John McClendon. And John McClendon had won 3 national titles at Tennessee State with Dick Barnett and so forth and so on. And Coach Gaines and he would get in a car, and they would go recruiting together for their respective schools in one car. So, that's something that, obviously, is not heard of, especially in these days. And they would go to, one kid, Coach Gaines would go in and make his pitch, and they wouldn't impede on each other. And then Coach McClendon, he'd have his kids, and he'd go. So it was certainly a different type of situation, and no money really makes it so you're pretty inventive in what you do. But these two guys made the best of what they had and were very, very, very successful.
Wow. Hey, Sonny, he brings up a good point. I think I saw a tape. Was it called Black Magic or something? Yep. And it was incredible. I mean,
well, Earl produced that. That's Earl.
Wow. I mean, the talent.
That's the creativity of him off of the basketball floor that a lot of people are not aware of. But I didn't know. This man is a very creative individual.
But what I didn't know, of course, because I'm a lot younger, just the talent that. I mean, when you talk about the Dick Barnetts and everyone coming out of those schools, I was
but
like,
there were
wow.
better players than Dick Barnett, and there were better players than Earl Monroe, who did not get the opportunity because of the color barrier. That's why when we talk, and you talk in our same language, it's about the journey. We're off the backs of those before us.
Right.
Down home they have a saying, or even in our neighborhood in the old days they had a saying. You know what they say? That Norm, I knew that boy was going to be something.
Right.
I knew that Earl Monroe was going to be something. I knew that Ted Blunt was going to be something. And we live vicariously through those individuals because they didn't get the chance, but we get the opportunity, and that's why Earl's book is such a great book. It's a catharsis book. It talks about different aspects of his life, how different things unfolded. There's basketball stories in there, but they're woven within real life stories, and it could be other individuals. It doesn't have to be Earl Monroe. It could be other individuals as well, because we're all connected on this journey together.
Wow. That's interesting, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're enjoying this. And I have to say, I'm bragging. I brought my ticket. Hey, Earl, I got my ticket in hand. I will be at the book signing on July the 29th. You know, because we talked a little bit about this in the, outside the studio, and I got to be very honest and humble, that I think that sometimes we lose respect for people who paved the way. And my mother had always taught me to be respectful and honorable. And I just wish that, you know, folks who are watching, you know, I got the idea of starting Stormers Classic from these guys. From these guys. He came up, I gave him a Lifetime Achievement Award.
That's right.
Am I lying?
That's right.
So we
No, but you formed your program after the Sonny Hill League.
That's right.
Yes.
Well, you have to, but you have to give homage and respect. And I think that what we're talking about right here is bigger than anything else because it's respect and people who paved the way. And we got to start talking about that. You understand what I'm saying, Earl? And I appreciate you guys. And I wrote Ted Blunt a little note the other day, just saying I thank you. You know, and I just think that even some of the younger players now in the NBA don't understand the pathways that you guys pay. You know, that you pay for them. I had who I have on the TV on my show, Earl Lloyd, and he was just talking.
No. Mr. Earl
Mr.
Lloyd,
Earl Lloyd,
please.
Yeah, and he
All
was
right.
and he was giving me some history.
Yes.
I mean, and that's amazing stuff.
He was one of the 3 blacks to break the color line. Actually, he was the first black because he played for Red Auerbach with the team in Washington called the Washington Capitals before Red Auerbach became the coach of the Boston Celtics. The other one was Chuck Cooper, who was drafted by Red Auerbach. Here he is again. And when he was the Boston Celtics, and the other one is Nat Sweetwater Clifton, who played for the Globetrotters, and Abe Saperstein sold his contract to the New York Knicks. So they are people that all of us are off the backs of, and they didn't get the freedom. You know, Earl Lloyd was called the Moonraker, but he could jump out the building and do it, but he couldn't do that. You know what he did when he came in the NBA? He had to be a defensive guy, he had to be a muscle guy, and he had to be a guy that would be subservient to the white players. That's why Earl's story is so important, because he was fortunate enough to come along at the right time with the right coach, Gene Shue, with the Baltimore Bullets, who saw something special in him and opened the door to let Earl, and I'll just turn it over to Earl when I finish talking about it, let Earl be the playground game and do all of the creative things that he could do. Speak to that, Earl.
Well, yeah, Gene Shue was very instrumental in, you know, my development as a player. And, you know, the thing in a nutshell is that Baltimore was getting ready, the Baltimore Bullets at that time, they were flirting with the idea of moving to Houston. When I got there, their attendance was down and so forth. And I guess what they saw in me was someone who could kind of rejuvenate the franchise. They certainly, you know, did a lot in terms of, you know, promoting, you know, what I was doing once I was able to do it. You know, when I first got there, you know, nobody had really heard of me. I come from a small black school, and even though I led the nation in scoring and we won the national championship as a college division team, still in all they were looking for like major college players to come in. And, you know, so I was called a hot dog and so forth and so on when I first got there. And I think once, you know, management, once the newspaper people started seeing people in the seats coming to see me play, then all of a sudden I became somewhat of a genius. But, but you know, not so much as, you know, being such a genius, but the fact of the matter is that I was able to play my game. And it's certainly the game that, you know, Coach Gaines allowed me to play as well. And so my transition into the NBA really wasn't as hard as a lot of other people because I was just really playing my game. You know, and Sonny alluded to something, you know, a while ago. You know, this book, for me, you know, is very special. Special to me because I was, after all these years, 40-some years, people have been asking me to, you know, do a book, and I never wanted to do a book. And I felt as though this was the right time. I met a gentleman by the name of Quincy Troop, who was a co-writer on this book. And Quincy wrote the Miles Davis autobiography, and he also wrote another book chronicalizing Wall Street. I forget the name of that book right now. But Will Smith played the title character in a movie just recently from this book. But when I read the Miles book, it felt like Miles was just speaking to me since I knew Miles. And that's the kind of book I wanted to have. I wanted to have a book that was done in first person. And so I set out to find him, and we started this journey. First time that I started this was about 6 years ago. And when I read what he had written about me, you know, after 2 days, he sent me back about 50 pages of stuff. 2 weeks later, it wasn't me. It said things that I didn't, you know, wasn't saying, and so forth and so on. So I just kind of nixed the idea. And then I met him again, and what I realized is that when he did the Miles book, he traveled with Miles for 6 or 7 months. So he could get the Miles dialogue. He could get all the type of scenarios that, you know, that Miles said and how he said them, which made the thing jump out at you like Miles was talking. And so that's what I decided that we were going to do. So this book here took about almost 9 or 10 months to do. And the good thing about it is that when I went to see him, he was in California. He was Poet Laureate of California at the time, and he was teaching at Berkeley. But he had an apartment in my complex, which is the next building over from me. So we spent this last 9 months on this book, and this book is really a testament as to from me being born to 1973 winning the NBA championship. And I guess the greatest thing that I could say that people say about this book is the fact that this is not a sports book, but it's a sports novel. And that's essentially what I wanted to try and create, something that people who read this book, they don't have to be a sports person to enjoy it. And it's a very readable book, and I'm pretty proud of how it came out.
Where can you purchase the book at?
Well, the book can be purchased at the Barnes and Nobles and a lot of other bookstores.
Amazon.com and all that?
Amazon, you can get it online at Amazon, you can get it on Kindle, Nook, and wherever you can get books at, this book is available.
Well, I want to thank you so very much for your time. Is there anything you wanted to ask before we let Earl off the phone?
No, I just want to thank you, Earl, for not letting me have to practice before the games.
Well, you know, Teddy was so good. He didn't practice it in his senior year. He just came to the game and played. So, but you know, Teddy was a great inspiration and mentor for me down there, and you know, appreciated what he had done. You know, prior. I mean, he was our MVP. He was all that, and he pulled me in and let me understand what the game was about. And I really appreciate that, you know, from, you know, a standpoint of not only being, you know, a great teammate, but, you know, being great friends for all these years. And of course, Sonny Hill, our mentor, I mean, just the most wonderful person ever, understands what it is to be in life. And that's what I like about Sonny. It's not just what we do, it's how we do it. And, you know, if people understood and the things that he has done and understood how he's done it. It's a great role model for everybody.
Well, we want to thank you so very much there, Mr. Earl Monroe, for sharing your story. And ladies and gentlemen, you heard it first here on Community Crossfire, as we always do. We do breaking news here.
There you go.
Breaking news here.
Let me just say to Earl before we cut off how instrumental Earl has been in my growth. The Baker League would be in its 53rd year this year. Started in 1960. Summer professional basketball has now become a part of NBA basketball. In fact, today they started the summer professional leagues in Orlando. Then the next one they'll have will be in Las Vegas. Well, we started that, but the person who put summer professional basketball on the big map was Earl the Pearl Monroe, who we affectionately call Mr. Baker League, because he was the guy that was always there whenever I needed him. Whenever I needed him, I don't care where he was. Sonny, I'll be there. So we just appreciate the fact that he's been so instrumental in so many things. And besides being a fabulous basketball player, he's a far better human being. Don't tell him I said that.
Hey, thank you again, Earl. Is there anything you want to say in closing?
No, I just want to say thank you for having me on, and keep up the good work, and we on.
And I'll see you on the 29th.
Okay, now. All the best.
Thank you.
Okay.
Wow, that was good. I've been put the number up. Maybe some folks want to call and ask some questions. But I want to say this about you too, Ted. I had never been to the CIAA tournament because I used to go down to the MEAC, and it was in Winston-Salem. And really, and I think that people even here in the state, he's been the city council president and everything. I didn't know that he played like that. I went to a game. Let me tell you a story. I went to a game down Bancroft, and for 20 years, I saw the guy do a move. He put the ball behind his back, and he brought it back, and he made a layup. I thought it was Wally Jones. I'm in sixth grade, right? After the game, again, back to respect, I go get the wrong guy's wristband. I went and got Wally Jones' wristband. Wally Jones said, that wasn't me, that was Ted Blunt. Am I lying? And so this guy, and I'm sitting there, he's being modest and humble about it, but again, I just want to say that was an incredible time for me, and I had a nice time at there.
Well, I don't think a lot of people really know what a great basketball player Ted Blunt was.
I didn't.
He wasn't just a basketball player. He was a great basketball player. And we just heard when Earl Monroe was at Winston-Salem State, it was Ted Blunt's ball, not Earl Monroe's ball. Ted Blunt also tried out for the Olympics and should have made it. So when we talked earlier about the stepping stone or the steps in terms of how Philadelphia basketball players have evolved, Ted is a part of that. So not only a great human being, a great politician, a great community guy, and I can tell you this because I've known Ted since Ted was 12, 13 years old. So when you talk about basketball,
I know
he knows how to play.
How you doing? Welcome to the show.
How you doing, Norman? This is Julius, and how you doing, Ted and Sonny?
Hey, Julius.
The question is for Sonny. I remember when you used to commentate for, I think it was Wild World of Sports. What do you think the difference is between commentators today and commentators when you was commentating? Because to me, it seemed like all they want to do now is down the athlete, and it seemed like when you all was commentating, it was a different type of style. And I just want your opinion on what you think today.
Well, first, I was very fortunate to be at CBS during that period of time from 73 to 77. I was there for 4 years. And I broke the ground in terms of how people perceived us as Negroes or coloreds back in those days. They had never seen anybody that dressed like I dressed, looked like I looked, spoke like I spoke, and had great relationships. You got to understand that when I was doing the game, and still to this day, you heard what was said by Earl Monroe earlier, my relationships with these players and the people in basketball allowed me to have more insight to what was going on. So I didn't have to worry about beating up the referees. I didn't have to worry about all the peripheral stuff that was going on. All I had to do was to tell people what was going on with the game, how to see things from that point of view, and then when I did post-game or halftime interviews you could see the relationships. So when I had the Wilts on, or the Spencer Haywoods, or the Bill Bradleys, or Walt Clyde Frazier, or Bob Lanier, the camera does not lie. You're in the business now. Your cameraman is over there right now. That camera that's looking at me right now is popping.
Right.
Because that camera picks up your personality. Right. And that was the thing that I was able to bring to you and the other listening audience.
One more thing. What commentator reminds you of yourself if you had to judge the younger guys? Who reminds you of yourself best as you can?
Thank you.
I'll sit back and listen to you answer.
Thank you for the call.
That's a tough question, because the one that I've nurtured and I've helped is Stephen A. Smith.
Okay.
Actually, when you see Stephen A. Smith, a lot of what he does comes out of me, because we talked about Coach Big House Gaines. Well, Coach Big House Gaines was also my father figure. As close as Earl and Ted was to Coach Gaines, because he's no longer here, I had the same situation. Because I sent him players, but he respected me. So when Stephen A. Smith came to Philadelphia, Coach Big House Gaines said, when you get to Philadelphia, boy, make sure you look up Sonny Hill. So when he called me and said Coach Gaines had sent him, and he was beginning to write for the Philadelphia Inquirer, I took him under tow, put him on my radio show, and a lot of his mannerisms are mine, but he's taking it to another level, because he's more, I call him the Black Howard Cosell now.
How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hi, Norm, Pastor D. Hey, I have a question hi, Ted, how you doing?
Hey, how are you doing?
And Mr. Hill, good evening. So
good evening.
Question for Ted and question for Mr. Hill, but Norm, I pray that Auburn is taping this show and that it will run during what they call Black History Month, beloved. I am so proud of you, Norm, because this is African American history, and I want to thank you on behalf of all of us who hear about, read about, and learn about these guys in our history. You're telling our story, buddy, Norm, and it is so important. Please print that tape and get it to every school you can, pal. Hey, Ted, one of the things, thank you for an opportunity to meet Mr. Monroe when I spoke for you at your Lieutenant Governor's opening. And I wondered then and always wanted to ask you, have you not ever considered coaching, and why don't we have a league, you know, a Ted Blunt league? And Mr. Hill, my very dear friend and mentor, is one Dr. William Cosby. And he...
Another one of my young boys.
Bill Cosby.
Bill Cosby is my young guy.
Yeah, yeah, he got some stories about you, man.
Yes.
He includes you in his stories to me often, and it's so nice to see what you look like now and what you dress like. You must be famous for your wardrobe, too.
Thank you very much.
How you doing? Welcome to the show.
I want to come to...
Hello? Must have got disconnected. Welcome to the show. Hello?
Yes, I'm here, Storm.
All right, go ahead.
Hey, Storm, this is the Sean Time, man. I'd like to thank you and Sonny Hill and Mr. Sonny Hill and Mr. Ted Blunt for you all being trailblazers and helping us as youth. Also, Mr. Earl Monroe and Sonny Hill, I'd like to thank you all for lending us a gentleman such as the name of Troop Washington.
Where you know Trooper from, man?
From West Center City. You came to Wilmington Anderson Community Center.
Well, you know, I raised that boy too, you know.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Yes, sir.
He taught all of us how to do it, and I thank you guys for just lending us for the short period of time.
Well, that's a part of the Philadelphia tradition.
Thanks for the call.
To see young guys like that, and then certainly when Trooper came to Wilmington, it was a great opportunity for him because he was in transition of life. And then once he got here, he understood what the nomenclature was. You know what the nomenclature was?
No.
Make sure you touch base with Ted Blunt.
Okay, I will. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing, man? Hey, this is Sonny, man. Hey, Norman. Hey, Norman. I'd like to thank you for allowing us to turn on Channel 28, man. And you never know what you'll catch on there. But we got history this evening, man. And Mr. Blunt, I'm blessed to know that you have a game out of this world. And Mr. Hill, I never got an opportunity to meet you, but listening to your stories, I'm one of them guys that rode the path, but my profession was boxing, man, and I appreciate.
Yeah, but Philadelphia is
everything
one of
you
the
got.
meccas of boxing, buddy. There's only 2 meccas of boxing, as you know, Detroit and Philadelphia. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I know that, right? But I also brought a mecca down here to Delaware because I'm the WBC junior middleweight champion.
Oh, good.
And hey, listening to you guys inspired me because I stood and strive for my dreams, man. And I thank you guys for giving us history this evening, man. And thank you again,
Well, you
Norman.
keep making history, young man, and always remember to reach back.
Thank you for the call.
Yes.
Hey, let me ask you a question. I had an argument the other night about how great Wilt Chamberlain was, and I know this is your guy. Could you tell the folks who are watching just a little bit, because we're going for an hour and we got 20 minutes, just about Wilt Chamberlain. I forgot. I was like, dude, this guy led the league. I mean, it was, I don't know what the argument was about because I couldn't even argue because it was like so stupid. You know what I mean? It's like one of those kind of conversations you get in, you're like, why are we even having this conversation? Will you tell the people who are watching just a little bit about Wilt? Could you hold on for a second? I got to get this out. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Could you tell us a little bit about?
Well, first, it's hard to describe.
Okay.
Because Wilt is greater than the game he played. And because so many people have not been a part of that era, they only understand what they've seen lately. You got to understand that we are inundated with television and communications in this day and age. So it was just a few years ago that Michael Jordan was the greatest. Mm-hmm. Now all of a sudden they say LeBron James. Mm-hmm. So things evolve so quickly. But when you talk about Wilt, you have to first understand this. Let me back up a little bit. First off, Wilt's not my hero. Wilt is my contemporary. Mm-hmm. We grew up together. Mm-hmm. He was at Overbrook High School, I was at Northeast High School. We played against one another, we played with one another. So when I speak of Wilt, I speak of him in terms of, well, he's not my hero. Mm-hmm. He's somebody that I respect. Mm-hmm. First off, you have to understand that Wilt today owns 96 records in the record book. 96 records. Mm-hmm. If you look at some of the Paul Bunyan things or the Herculean things that he's been able to do, no human being can do this. For example, Wilt had a season when he averaged over 48 minutes in a game. It's only 48 minutes in an NBA basketball game. He played every game, every minute, including overtime, and there was one game where he got into a dispute with the referee and they threw him out. The other one is this. People talk about all of the great things that he was able to do. They talk about the 100 points, the 50-point season, the rebounding, and that's all great. He's the only player as a center that's been able to lead the league in assists, which is almost impossible because centers don't get the ball that much to do that. So therefore, anything that they said he couldn't do, he said, I can do. So when you talk about Wilt, it's hard to describe because nobody can fathom that any human being could do this. Now, I'll close off by saying this. People see modern basketball today. You see a guy average 41 minutes a game, 42 minutes a game in one season. Wilt all time leads the NBA in minutes played. He averaged in his lifetime 46 minutes a game. Wilt never fouled out a game in the whole NBA. He told me, he said, Sonny, somebody told him when he was about 12 years old, he fouled out of a game. They told him and said, if you foul out the game, you have no value to your team. He never fouled out another game in his life. I mean, I could sit here and tell you so many stories about Wilt that you just could not believe.
I know, but I just had to throw that out. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hey, Norm, how you doing? This is Lance Bruce, man. How you been?
I'm fine.
Man, another great program tonight. Just wanted to say hello to Mr. Hill.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm doing fabulous. I'm doing better than ever.
Amen. And I had a question for Ted Blunt. Mr. Blunt, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Lance.
The question is your daughter came out with a book a few years ago. Is there a book on Ted Blunt with your memoirs in it, or something that we can get hold of to that tells your history or your life story, or are you working on that?
I really appreciate that, but the answer to the question is no. I'd rather remain in the background. So I would imagine my daughters would probably do something in years to come, but as it stands right now, I've led a good life, and I'm happy with the things that I've been able to do. And for those that know about me, they can talk about me. For those that don't, I'm happy.
But you know, that was a good point. I didn't even know about the Olympic thing. I never knew that until you brought that up. You know,
I raised the boy.
Yeah, well, no.
And not only that, I could tune him up
Okay,
on a regular basis.
Hey, I hear you.
Excuse me? I didn't hear you.
Yes, sir.
How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hey, good evening. It's Kevin Kelly.
Hey, Kevin.
How's everybody doing?
Fabulous.
Hey, like I said, I have pictures of me and Earl playing tennis over at Rodney Street Court with Ted, and one of the greatest of all time, Connie Hawkins, was also there playing tennis with us at all. You know, my top five, Earl's got the other guy on the cover, Jerry West, the Big Dipper, Larry Bird, and Connie Hawkins.
That's a good one.
But I'll leave you with this, Norm. You got two great individuals on there. Don't kid yourself. Ted Munt rode my coattails on city council for the time I was on, and that's why I was president that whole time. That's all.
We knew you would throw a jab in there somewhere, man.
Hey, you forgot to mention Tiny Archibald.
Oh, yeah. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hey, this is Sylvester Babe Selby.
Uh-huh. You have a question? Hey, Sylvester, go ahead.
Yeah, I got a question, Norm. Hey, man, you got a hell of a show tonight, man.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Hey, well, this is how this works. It's a little echo when you have your phone turned up. You got to turn it down. And like I said, this is one of those shows, really. I could just sit back. You know, because you don't know how honored I am. I mean, I talk to these guys all the time, but these guys are my mentors. See, and like Ted says, we don't talk about a lot of stuff. It just happened. You don't know. They have no idea. The stories that Earl and those guys were saying when we was in New York. You know, I don't come back and talk about that stuff. The conversation we had in the lobby, I don't talk about that. You know what I mean? Because some things are meant to be kept between us.
I think that for you, when you went to the CIAA, because I never really talked about me being a basketball player.
Oh, there's a difference.
And for you to realize that when you go south, and you come in contact with a lot of the former ball players.
And the conversation we had with Curly Neal. You know, and Curly Neal was talking about...
You mean the Curly Neal? The Globetrotters?
Yeah.
Ted tuned him up all the time.
He told me.
All the time. Not some of the time, all the time.
Wow. Talk about it. Yeah. How you doing? Welcome to the show. Oh, we're getting heated now.
Hey, Norm.
Uh-huh.
Hey, this is Richard, man.
Who?
This is Richard Jameson, Norm.
Okay.
Hey, listen, man, I'd like to know when you're going to have another show like that, because I want Mr. Hill elaborate a little bit on Earl, not Earl Monroe, Willis Reed, because you know that's my mentor.
Yeah, you from down in Louisiana? Are you from Louisiana?
No, sir. I'm from Delaware.
Okay, but you liked him as a ball player.
No, sir.
Well, you say he was your mentor.
Yeah, that's my main man, Mr. Willis Reed. That was the guy who I wanted to play like and be like.
Oh, yeah, I understand. Okay.
No, yeah.
We can do that.
Yeah,
Willis is a very dear friend of mine as well. I have a great relationship with him. The unique thing about Sonny Hill is that throughout basketball in particular, I have so many great relationships with so many of these individuals.
Yeah, go ahead. Welcome to the show.
Hey. I'd like to ask Sonny Hill a question about, at their best, who would he take, Moses Malone or Akeem Olajuwon?
Moses. And let me tell you why. Moses taught Hakeem Olajuwon. The other thing I want to tell you, and people don't understand this, Moses has the longest streak in the NBA without fouling out. Now, Wilt never fouled out.
I didn't know that.
But Moses has the longest streak in the history of the NBA. So now you break it down. Is Olajuwon going to get in foul trouble? Yes. Is Moses going to get in foul trouble? No. Who's the hardest working man that you know when we talk about that? Because Moses Malone is the James Brown of the NBA. He don't do nothing but just work, and work.
How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hi, Sonny. This is Patsy. Just call and say hello.
That's
Hi,
my
Sonny.
cousin.
Just saying hi. You looking good.
Hey, wait a minute, cuz.
Okay.
Now I got to come by and see you. That's
You
my
looking
cousin. He
good.
live on DuPont Street.
Yeah, you told me.
Right across from the. Hey, Patsy.
Yeah,
Patsy.
I'm looking at the show. I'm enjoying it.
Okay, no, don't touch the button. Leave my Patsy alone. Okay. Hey, Patsy, tell the people here how when I came to Delaware all the time with my Aunt Nora,
That's right.
and I would come and we could not go in Judy Johnson's park. Tell the people.
That is true. I
remember you
talk
told me
about that all the time.
Now they live right across the street.
That's
That's
right.
where they live. They can walk from their house right across the street to Judy Johnson's park. But when I was coming to Delaware, I'm a bigger Delaware person than both you guys. Okay, is that right, Patsy?
You're right.
And could not go in the park. We used to throw the baseball or the tennis ball with her brother Harold and I because we couldn't go inside.
I remember you telling me that story.
That's right. You tell the truth. I talk about that all the time to people.
Wow.
Okay. good
I'm going to
talking
come
to
and
you.
see you, sweetheart.
All right, honey.
I know
Take
I haven't
care.
seen you for a period of time, but you know how much I love you.
I love you too.
I know
All right.
that.
Thank
I
you-
know
thank
that.
you, cuz.
Boy, you have made my day.
See, hey, man, you never know.
You made my day, man.
Thank
That's
you.
my cousin.
That's what's
She
up.
loves me.
She just said it. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hi, I wanted to say a great show, and before his cousin just called, I thought I was going to be the only female calling this show. But
You're
as a
still
lover
good.
of basketball,
Okay. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hi, I was just wondering if Mr. Hill's opinion about how Shaquille O'Neal would have done against Wilt Chamberlain.
Again, let's put it in its proper perspective. The strongest player in the history of the NBA is Wilt Chamberlain. The next strongest guy is a guy by the name of Artis Gilmore. I'm going to tell you a story. We were in Florida at some kind of a speaking engagement down that I was involved with, and I know Artis Gilmore personally, called the A-Train. So he's standing outside talking about, I'm the strongest guy, and I this, and I have to walk up and I said, can you say Wilt? He said, ooh. The key to this is this. Again, Wilt never fouled out of a basketball game. Shaquille O'Neal has fouled out many a basketball game. So when you talk about young Wilt Chamberlain playing with the Philadelphia Warriors, which most of you people never saw, first off, the first shot that Shaquille O'Neal would take, the first shot, no serious now, Wilt would take a step back from him, he would shoot the ball, and Wilt would go up in the air and catch his first shot. Then he would take him down the other end of the floor and catch the ball and tomahawk over top of his head. That's the end of that story.
I think that's the end of that story. Thanks for your call. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going there? I want to say, Norm, thanks a lot. This is Len from Lapa, man. All I want to say is it's an outstanding show, and I appreciate it, but I want to say something definitely to two of your guests, and that's the Honorable Ted Blunt and also the master of basketball, and nobody else is better. The sad thing is he never got a chance to play in the NBA, but he would have been one of the best guys that I've ever seen with a jump shot.
Oh.
High arcing at his board. It wasn't Lloyd Free. It was Sonny Hill.
Sweet jumper. That man know what he's talking about.
Yeah, okay.
I mean,
Sweet jumper.
And with
Let
Son-
me ask you a quick question. Why, to me, this is me, I don't think Jabbar gets his due.
Well, he doesn't get his due because he is an enigma. He does not connect with people well.
Okay.
And he's aloof. He is introverted, and it has hurt him in terms of his post-basketball career, and it also hurt him during his basketball career because that's not his personality.
Okay.
And his personality hasn't been one that people would gravitate to.
Okay. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hi, Norm. This is Dorothy from out here on Bear, Delaware.
Uh-huh.
I just turned your program on. I missed it because I had company. But I just want to tell you that we do have some fantastic ball players from the era of 54 to maybe 1963 down at Lewis Reading High School. They have all kinds of, high scoring. and their names Winnie Backus, Howard Smith, Buddy Jefferson, Joe Todd. Maybe what you should do, Norm, sometime you're not too busy, do a little film on them, okay?
Okay, put me get another job.
Yeah.
That's more work.
The one thing that we really didn't mention was during the Wilt era, every game was an all-star game. You've got one team, as an example, the New York Knicks. All 5 of their players are in the Hall of Fame. One team.
Wow.
And just imagine you go to Cincinnati. You had the Big O, Wayne Embry, Odie Smith, Jack Twyman. Go to Boston, you have a string of ball players. But there were only 8 clubs, whereas today there are 30 ball clubs.
Okay.
So a lot of guys never got that opportunity.
When you look at what happened with Dwight Howard, how much money, I mean, he averaged 17 points and 10 rebounds. How much money would Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell and those guys ask for
Well,
now?
I can tell you what Wilt would say. I would own the franchise. Because Wilt's voice is a very deep voice.
We're going to take just one last call, okay? How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hello.
How you doing?
Oh, fine. I want to say hello to Sonny Hill.
Hello. How are you?
Hello.
Hello. Who is this?
Hey, Sonny, this is one of your friends that we used to play together down in
It's Deli Roan. Deli
Roan.
Roan.
Virginia.
Deli Roan.
That's me.
Deli Roan.
That's right.
King
That's
William.
me.
I talked about King William, Virginia on my radio show today, and Mount Olive Church. Second Sunday in August is homecoming. And Deli, you remember we used to run around barefooted all the time.
Yes, we did.
Okay. I told you we needed another 2 hours. Hey, John Savage told me to tell you guys hi, too.
John's a good man.
Yeah.
Came to play in the Baker League and played in the Eastern Basketball to one of the Blue Bombers, and then made this area his home.
Wow.
Yeah, John and Reggie Lacefield.
Reggie Lacefield.
Yep, Reggie
The other guy
Lacefield.
made this their home.
They're
They're Baker League guys, too. Yep.
And just basketball, in your opinion, is just totally evolved now. It's a whole total different thing now.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. Just
when you start off the conversation about how we got to where we are and how it's falling apart, well, basketball has done the same thing. It's not what it once was. Like Ted was saying, we had the 8 teams in the NBA. I played in Eastern basketball for 10 years. I was 8 teams in, from 58 to 68. That was a close-knit. We looked to play. Players come today, watch. They come to play, but they don't come to watch. They don't come early to watch. They don't stay late to watch. We did all that. Ted used to sit at 25th and Diamond and watch the older guys play before he was able even to get in the game.
let me thank you guys again. Thank
Hey, man,
you.
I enjoyed myself
Thank
on
you,
your
man.
show.
No, man, I tell you, we could have did 2 hours. All right, don't forget to get that Earl Monroe
The book.
Get the book, The Pearl. You heard him here on the show. You never know who we're going to have. And next week, we're going to have Chip Flowers, the state treasurer.
That'll be good.
There's some stuff going on with him and the governor. So.
Well, I think that Chip's position was absolutely correct. You know, before the governor starts to lift up the covers on Chip, he needs to look at his own sheets. Because, I mean, the reality of it is, I mean, Wilmington Trust, a bank that did extremely bad, taking 58% of the state dollars and divesting those dollars. Chip is on the money. I think the governor ought to worry about other business and let Chip Flowers be the treasurer, just like when he was the treasurer.
Well, you're going to hear it here first next week. You heard that, right? I want to thank Sonny Hill, Ted Blunt, and the great Earl Monroe. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it again first here on Community Crossfire. We try to bring it to you live. No holds barred. Thank you, guys.